Mm-hmm. So, count us in, or what we doing?
Okay.
Okay, everybody. Like, we talk about the intro.
Uh,
So we're in Detroit, um, at the hotel. Came here to look at some properties. Look at some properties. Really scope this space out, and I think, yeah, haven't. This is my first time at least really looking at Detroit in that way, in a way of like, hey, this is a place that we potentially put an investment, or even like trying to understand Detroit rather than just going to a specific place. So yeah.
yeah, I know. To your points, like this is our. I wouldn't say this. I don't know. I don't. And I was saying this yesterday, but I'm like, I don't know if Detroit looks a little different, or like if it literally has been since the past like 2 years, like they've made different types of investments, like the Gucci store that's I think again came about like 1 to 2 years ago. It's like right outside the window. But I'm like, that wasn't here last time we were here, and it feels like this whole area like feels like new. Granted, it's downtown, so it don't mean Detroit just looks different, but it does feel different since we spent not a significant amount, but some time in Detroit. Well, I did those couple years back. But yeah, to your point, like I had never really looked at Detroit in this way. And we only been here for a day, and we only will be here for like a day.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, haven't. I mean, for me, I realized as you were saying that I haven't really ever been to.
Right.
I've been to Detroit unless it was for a specific event.
Yeah.
So when I went, I was only going to that specific place. I wasn't saying, "Oh, I'm on." I wasn't even realizing where I was at within Detroit, or like understanding the geography of it and all of that. So I'd have to say it's been good. Seeing it from this perspective, especially having grown up technically so close to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it's crazy because that's probably a good conversation for like another whole, or not even, it don't have to be a conversation, but just like something that we don't talk about enough is that, or we don't emphasize enough, is that like travel and like exploration really don't gotta be like, oh, let's book a flight to wherever, because I'm like, we live so close to, and most people do live close to like some type of metro city. Most people do. Some people live in the middle of nowhere, Nebraska, or even then you're in Omaha, and that was actually a nice place. But besides the point, like we grew up, like you said, like an hour away from Detroit. Granted, we didn't have the money to like come and actually explore it how we probably would have wanted to, because like, not to say it's all about like shopping and like but it's like a lot of times travel is about, other than like, unless if it's, especially if it's cold, like when it's cold and stuff like that, like most of it is about purchasing something, like even if it's just food
or
experiences. Like it's like if it's cold in Detroit or Chicago, I think about the first, that was like literally our first trip like ever together was Chicago, and it was cold, and it was only because we had like a couple dollars from our summer trip or a summer job to
stay in the hostel.
Which was crazy now I think about it, a freaking hostel, but stay in a hostel, train there, and like go to like the different restaurants. But it was so cold that that's all we could do. Like we couldn't walk around outside. But all that to say, I'm like, I think it is like something there with like traveling and like exploring, like even how we live in New York City now. One being like a tourist of our own neighborhood, but then on top of that, like Philly is right there, Pittsburgh is relatively close, and Boston, like all these like metro places that when we go as Americans, we typically are just like, yeah, like that's it. Like we're not trying to travel as if when we go to like a Milan or Florence, like when we're trying to see and understand the place. But
well, people, I mean, somebody created a saying at some point of like, there's a whole world outside your window.
Oh, I'm like,
like I don't really know who we ascribe all these sayings
to. Just like this thing, and be like, somebody once said before, and it was
you. Nah, I don't know who you saying these things, but obviously somebody said that there's a whole world outside your window, and I think people typically hear that as like, yeah, there's so much more of the world to see. And I think it at every level, especially when it comes to traveling, like people start off not leaving their house as a kid, then to not leaving your block or expanding beyond your block, to the rest of the city or the rest of your side of town, then the rest of the city, especially when you grow up in like places like a Flint or Detroit, where it's like some people's like, nah, I only really stayed on the west side. Like I didn't even really go to the east side of Detroit.
Some, like you said, like you're saying, like some people, like we have multiple friends from Detroit, and I'm like, yeah, they probably can. And not to say again, things are all about always doing everything in the city or like hitting every pocket of whatever. But I'm like, some friends from Detroit, like if we ask them for Rex, they might just say like the restaurant that maybe their cousin used to go to a lot, or their cousin owned. Like they might not tell us like, oh, if you go to Moots or whatever, like this place is down the street, like oh, like or hit up North End and see all these things, like. So I think that's crazy.
It's the access piece. I mean, it's exposure and access, and a lot of times access. Obviously, there's real deal like, oh, I can't pay to get on the bus to go type of access, but a lot of it, especially as an adult, becomes your perception of the access you have to these different places.
Right.
Because it's like somebody could be from, or I'll use New York, where it's like, oh, there's people who from Jamaica, Queens, and they like, I can't really go to the Upper West Side to just like
do whatever, like
chill on the weekend on the grass, and it's like a lot of that is because you're like, damn. We didn't do that, or I don't typically see people from where I'm from do that, which is, it all goes back to, exposure being an important thing generally. But
I think that's also like a good segue to like what was on, or we talked about a little bit like what was on my heart with like, to your point, we're here to specifically like just like, almost said like shop the market, but not, I mean kind of, but I forget what they call it like in real estate terms, but like really just, what did they like? Probably that too, but like
scouting the area.
Scout the area, and then like just really, dang, it was a what's the word? It was like a colloquial like saying that the person said in the book, like something like not get your miles in, but like something about gas. I don't know. Like I might remember, but I liked how he put it. It was like fill the tank or something. It was something, but like that's what we're here to do. And I think about, to your point, like one, we just came here to Detroit specifically. Typically when we come into Detroit, we end up finding a way like home, like in Flint, at least for a couple hours, like, or there's never been a time, to your point, where we just like came to Detroit, stayed, and like gonna leave. Other than like one time, but went to the hospital and went back. But it makes me think, or like it brought up feelings of like, oh, like one, okay, you're coming to Detroit, you're doing something for yourself and not like thinking like, oh, like, if they find out I'm here, like, oh, I gotta go make time for this person, or when you come here in Flint or in Michigan in general, flying in, having that feeling of like, oh, like I'm able to just do this, like I'm able to just like do a day trip to Detroit, like I have the means to do that. And like you said, or like you mentioned, not too long ago, we didn't have the means to make a day trip to Detroit from Flint, let alone a day trip from New York City to Detroit, albeit a Spirit flight. But like still, and it brings up the feelings of like a little bit of like thrivers or survivor's guilt, because then it makes you be like, oh, like I want to do more, or like I wish I could do more, or like I wouldn't say, like I'm kind of past the why me's. Like I feel like I went through a season of life where I wouldn't say it, like I feel like some people probably have survivor's guilt deeper in that way, when they'll literally be like probably questioning like why me, but I went through a season probably where I was rejecting things and opportunities, and even still to this day rejecting stuff because it's like a imposter syndrome in that way. But it brings me to like, I love a good metaphor. And it brought me to the thought, survivor's guilt kind of equated to that, put your mask on first, if we crash, or whatever they say on the plane that we stop listening to.
Please put your mask on first,
Yeah, because I'm like, dang, as we talked about, like, I'm like, you really do have to put your mask on first. Like, you have to, it's a balance, it's like a dance, but you have to think about yourself first, consider yourself first. And I'm very selfish, so like, or I think I'm a selfish person in a way, to where I know that I care a lot about what I want, and like, and I'm not like, oh, let me just make sure everybody else got something first. Like, I'm good about being quote unquote selfish in a lot of ways, or at least selfish with my ambitions. But clearly not good enough, because like
I mean, there's the thing that we tell ourselves, and then there's what we actually do. And I think yeah, with survivors and thrivers guild, or like just leaning into the metaphor more so. It's like a lot of times growing up, if you're so used to worrying about everybody else's mask, you convince yourself that you're almost like a superhero to where, like, yeah, I'll get to my mask, but like I'll be able to be, I'll be
fine.
more fine without my mask than they would be without theirs. Right, so it starts seeding this unintentional like hero complex, or at least this is what I feel like for myself, right? So I'm projecting a little bit, but unintentional hero complex, but also like it's out of love because you're like, nah, I really like for you, both of us, we got small younger siblings, so it's like
small,
you know what I mean, younger siblings, to where it's like, nah, I gotta look out for them, and that's also how you're just like raised and brought up. But to your point, as you now, or as we're now older, they start recognizing those signs. It's like, oh wow, the reason they're saying that on the plane, if you ever listen to it all the way through, it's like you could pass out trying to help somebody else. Now everybody good except you,
or now everybody not good,
or nobody's good.
You can't help that your child, as they usually allude to.
Yeah, most of the time they're talking about a kid. You're right.
Yeah,
and
because typically they not like. When I think about it, it's not like they like help your neighbor first.
Yeah,
they like put your mask on before a small child, because typically, you got to make sure you good before you like.
Exactly.
And then now she ain't good either.
And I think that idea, or at least something I'm working on unlearning, is the idea that me putting my mask on doesn't mean that we want to eventually help them get their mask on in the first place.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing. A lot of times you convince yourself, well, dang, if I don't help them,
right,
then we just gonna be maskless around, or they'll never figure it out. Which is you really think about it, like you gotta reevaluate how you're viewing people, and it's like a lot of it is, at least for me, it's like, oh, history.
Enough credit.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's history of being like, oh, well, historically, it hasn't added up to be whatever. But in real life, yeah, I do think it's something to unlearn, but also like there's a lot of opportunity in that. Like, oh yes, you could at this moment focus on, hey baby, we all get our masks on, and I also think we grow up being like, dang, you hear like, let's just use money for example, billionaires or million people who go to the league or whatever, like people critique them and they're like, they don't really give back how they supposed to, and a lot of that's true, of course, but
it's like
at the same time,
exactly. A lot of times it's pocket watching because we don't know.
We don't know, and both things can be true. That you can, in your opinion, based on what you see, you can feel that this person isn't doing what you would do.
Exactly.
And at the same time, you're not in that person's position to actually know. Right. So
two things get brought up or come to mind when you say that. It's like, one, what I said yesterday about Dan Gilbert, where I was like, for anybody that's listening, Dan Gilbert is the founder of Rocket Mortgage. Primarily, I think that's what his wealth came from primarily, and then I know he has
technically like Quicken Loans or something.
Yeah, I'm like I'm kind of confused with that, but like I know his story started as where like it was very like a gritty entrepreneurial story where like he started with like $5,000 with mortgage lending, which is kind of ironic because that's what we not here for, but real estate. So he started with $5,000 and grew that business, and now he owns a lot of businesses. He's from Michigan. I think particularly he might be from Detroit area. I know he went to Michigan State, so I don't know if he's from Lansing. Is that Lansing?
That's Lansing. Or East Lansing.
But he's from Michigan, I believe. But a lot of his money, or a lot of Detroit and the rebuilding of Detroit, I feel like, and this could be not all the way true, but from what I recognize, it feels like a lot of it is connected to him and his businesses. Because I think he owns some of the Cavs, Cavaliers. But I feel like he owns part of one of these stadiums. I don't know, but he's like a lot of his wealth, or a lot of the developments in Detroit, I feel like tie back to him in some way. All that to say, I was talking to Jelani yesterday when he was riding around. And I was like, dang, when I realized that that some of these larger developments coming up are like under his company, or one of his companies are adjacent to him in some way. I was like, dang, I wonder, do people in Detroit, are they like, because he's a billionaire. And his ex-wife is, but like everybody, a lot of the higher people connected to him are like multimillionaires, billionaires. So I'm like, I wonder if people are looking like he's not doing enough for the city, because he's a billionaire. And because I know, especially black folks or black and brown people, we love to be like, if I had this money, their homelessness wouldn't be a thing. And I'm like, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. Like it is like a dance with it, but I like to give people the benefit of the doubt where I'm like, yeah, it's a one. He's a billionaire, but it's not all liquid cash. That's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, it's so many billionaires in the world, and we all, say billionaires are quote unquote bad, but I'm like, it gotta be one billionaire that's kind of doing it right to where I'm like, if he's not fixing the world, then it's not just money. But all that to say, that ties back to the second thing where I was, it got. I was thinking about this already. We was planning the trip to New York, and then I was watching an interview with Michelle Obama, and she mentioned this. She was like, she dealt with. I don't know if she coined it survivor's guilt as well, but that's how I heard it. But she really was just like, yeah, like when Barack was coming up, even when he was like, I think past Senator Obama or like maybe past those years, and she was a lawyer. Obviously, she was more successful, I think, than him at a certain point in time, pre-senator. But she was like, she comes from the south side of Chicago, similar place than us in a way, different upbringing, but similar place. And she was saying, of course, when she was making corporate lawyer money, people was looking at her like, let me get $1, all this stuff. And she's like, if I would have thought about all those things first, like, again, it's a dance, but if I would have thought about all that, I would have never gotten where I could have been, because I'm over here trying to give all my money away before I, before I can afford to give more away, or do more, not even necessarily give more money away, but like I'm trying to buy my mama a house if I'm 1 year into the league, and really, and again, it's a dance. That's why it's so like a delicate conversation, but it's like you 1 year into the league and you would know better than I. But you 1 year into the league and you can easily get cut. And now you spent half of your rookie contract on getting your mama house, and you could have, it's all on your leisure-esque, but like you could have got you a house and invested in that, and then 2 years down the line, got your mama a house.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's. I also think people conflate a lot of things. It's like we're so off, or a lot of times we focus on the individual rather than the systems of things. Where it's like, the end of the day, yes, I have my own opinions about the idea of somebody even being able to be a billionaire and all of that, right? That is completely that's completely separate from Dan Gilbert, you know what I mean? Or technically like Jay-Z's a billionaire, whoever we say, right? That's completely separate from these individuals happening to be in this system and reaching that status. And I think the same thing with like, the NFL player. I think the whole thing is like, I think money is the easiest way to explain it, but when you say like affording to give back, a lot of times, at least what I'm finding, and I think a lot of people are calling out, it's like they're the things that are non-financial. It's really where you can't afford it, because money, you figure out how to make money in a way, right? Ideally, you're able to always figure out how to continue to make it. Mm-hmm. The issue is that affording, it's about the thought that you have that led you to do it. Mm-hmm. So if you're like, dang, I need to buy my mama a house, it's like, in reality, the thought is, I need to take care of my mom. Yeah. I need to take care of everybody.
Exactly. Yeah.
So now you become this caretaker to where it doesn't matter how much money you gain or not gain, you're automatically in a thought that it is now my responsibility to take care of people, which is the underlying thought that I think we all need to actually address. And the metaphor that you mentioned actually like calls out a good amount. This idea that, we get to this point in time where we're hoping that, let's say you have a lot of kids, you're hoping that one of them gets to the point to where now they take care of everybody. And in reality, that's just not realistic.
It's a lot of
not for the people who are being taken care of.
Right. Because there's always the person who. So it's like it's a moving target.
It's not even realistic, and it's not as sustainable as anybody would want it to be. In reality, yes, your mom is appreciative for the house you bought her, but your mom didn't take care of you growing up so that when you get money, you buy her house. Like, most of the time, don't get me wrong, there's exceptions. Most of the time, people are taking care of you because they love you. Yeah. There are ways you can give back. As I said, most of the time, don't get me wrong. People take care of you because they love you. It is now, and I think a lot of it is not having the exposure, right? You don't know what to do with this resource. Because you don't know what to do with these resources, you now feel like, well, dang, I'm not supposed to have them.
Yeah.
And in reality, we have to get to a point where people are able to sit with it. And I think that especially today, that goes to do with fame, like
Mm-hmm.
getting like you become an influencer, and now you have all of these eyes on you.
Mm-hmm. You don't know
We
what to do with it.
we have to be able to sit with it and understand.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That those differences. So
So how I like that. How do you like with those things in mind? Like, have you been able to, or do you think that you still struggle because you articulated it well? So like, I mean, I kind of know where you are with it, but like, how would you say today in 2026 that you're like dealing with survivor's guilt, or like how have you navigated? Because you're way better. You're probably way better than me in terms of, again,
yeah,
not the way we vocalize things, but in the way in which you carry yourself. I guess like you definitely aren't like as much as I am, maybe pushing off certain heights, like dimming your light, I guess, as much like you are. I think in my observation, like you dim your light a little bit for others in service or in comfortability of others, but you're way more ahead of me in the trail. So like, how have you been able to like contend with survivor's guilt or thriver's guilt
yeah,
and put your mask on first, when it comes to, again, not even the accumulation of like money,
yeah,
but mostly the accumulation of like kind of living a whole and grand and beautiful life and
yeah.
receiving all the things that God like has put in your life. Like, how have you been
It's a
able
good
to?
question. I think there's really two things for me. Is first, not being in denial. I think that's the biggest step in my opinion. And not being in denial meaning I'm not around here acting like I don't feel survivors and thrivers guilt. I
Mm-hmm.
think sometimes we try to
That ain't me.
affirm ourselves out of it,
Yeah.
or we try to nope, it's not, I'm not feeling that way. You know what I mean? In
Mm-hmm.
reality, it's like, no, first and foremost, understanding my disposition.
Mm-hmm.
It's not me actively choosing to be this way every day
Mm-hmm.
or feel this way.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I've had 20 something years of that being reinforced.
Mm-hmm.
These things like that caregiving nature, all of these things that are leading me to feel this way. So it's
Mm-hmm.
first and foremost acknowledging that of like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like, oh, why am I feeling this way? Like I get it. And then the second piece is kind of what you called out, which is like realizing how little I have to do with some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And some people can view that however they want to, but it's like at the end of the day, like God is making stuff happen irregardless of
Yeah.
how I feel about it. Not necessarily irregardless of my inputs,
Mm-hmm.
because we have to like take steps and try so that God can make it happen. But in terms of how I feel about things, like I can not like what's going on, and God is going to, you know, if He wants me to flourish in this way, I'm going to flourish in this way. You know what I mean? So it's like me remembering that, and then just changing my perspective. And I think that's something that even when I think of music and like film and all of that we think about and talk about doing, a lot of it is getting, or my hope is to get people to see that like, oh wow, very few things we own. One of those things is our perspective though.
Mm-hmm.
Like almost at any, pretty much at any moment, like there's very few exceptions I can even think about where you don't own the way in which you decide to view something.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it's reminding myself of that. Okay, yeah, I don't own the circumstances that are leading to whatever situation, but I definitely own my ability to, you know, react and view it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. So you would say that's probably like the main thing that you.
yeah, it's remembering that. I mean, and that like if you part of perspective, if you wanna, and it's like that video we watched. If you wanna be like, dog, I'm back. I'm like so back. We like.
I'm so bad.
So back. Like you can at any moment.
Yeah.
Or if you want to be like, dang, and we've talked about it, like, dang, I'm in Detroit in a hotel that like I never even heard of before. You know what I'm saying? Like you can always call these things out and be like, oh snap, I know the person who like collabed on this jacket. You know what I mean? Like all of these are things that are worth marveling at, that are in the
But I
present.
think that's what like I struggle with the most. It's like, to your point, it's like, yeah, like I don't struggle with perspective, but like I struggle with the calling the things out, because I mean that's directly what I think how my survivor's guilt, what it's tied to, because like and what I've seen that you also struggle with, or we were just talking, it's kind of, now I think about it, ties to what you were saying a recent struggle of yours is, or like your frustrations with some things, but I'm like, it's the acceptance of like things out loud, because I'm like, yeah, I know that. I'm like, that is pretty cool that like we are staying. Well, first of all, that we're staying in a hotel that, and we used to live in hotels. Like, so it's like that's
No,
really
exactly,
cool.
exactly.
But like saying that to somebody, especially, and again, this goes to the survivors part, especially somebody that we know, especially family or cousin, or well, it's family too, but like not. I mean, it's also hard for me to call things out to like friends that might be able to enjoy some of those fruits in the present, but especially to people who still can't, and I can't afford, like, obviously we can't afford to also be like, yeah, mama and daddy come up in here and stay too. And so I'll be like, well, since I can't, and that's literally, I guess, the whole thing. It's like, I feel like because since I can't pay for them to, as an example, since I can't pay for them to stay in this hotel, should I be staying in this hotel? Or like, I'm not gonna talk about it. Like, I'm not gonna tell them that how much this hotel costs, or I'm not gonna tell them what type of breakfast we had. Like I'm not going to say these things because I'm guilty, survivor.
Right.
I'm guilty of being able to enjoy those fruits when I knew.
That is true. But I think that is, so I still struggle with that, to your point. And I don't think I'm
so we're lost.
To that point. I don't think necessarily
we're
lost.
Gonna fail.
It's more so
so we can't help each other.
It's more so, I think the step that I may have taken that you in between there that
you also,
I recommend. I say this stuff to myself.
I was about to say that.
That's
you're
probably
able to
the
say
difference.
it to myself.
I don't go and say it to
even
everybody
to
else
say it to
because I do still feel so much for other people that I feel like, I have a thing with like, even if it's all in my head, I don't want people to feel any lesser than me, especially because I don't think that. That's not the intention of sharing something. But saying it to myself, that's how I even get through
the day.
The day. The feelings is reminding myself in this exact moment. Oh wow! Like even the idea of I can look ahead of me right now and like even me looking and being like, oh dang, I can kind of see how somebody put together this piece of furniture. And I only really could see that based off of like things I've seen in the past, or like shows like Watch What I'm Going, which means I've had the ability to watch Architectural Digest or whatever I want to say to be able to like appreciate the craft of this or whatever it is.
You know, say what it is.
I don't know what that is. Whatever it is, you know what I mean?
This is what's there.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. At some point, I'll know what this is called, and then it's like, damn, I remember I didn't even know what this was called when I was here. Like, I'm able to say that to myself. I do think there's a step you could take, and I think for me, part of taking that step is like weaving that into the music is what I end up doing, right? Like sometimes it's easier to say it figuratively than it is to say it direct, but the goal is eventually to get to saying it direct, because the more open we could be, if you actually want to expose people to different things, you gotta trust that like if people don't know your heart, God does, and if you approach it with the right intention, then it should work out. Easier said than done, which is why it isn't done. You know what I mean?
This is why I'm not doing.
You know what I mean? That's always the thing, but the truth.
Yeah, well, that's good. Like I think, we both got some ways to go, but I think that's why I like to record these. One, so we can like look back and see like, okay, one, it's our feelings in right now, and hence the name Flights and Feelings. But it's it's our feelings in the present. We're feeling while we're like exploring ourselves, exploring the world. But yeah, and it's honest, because I'm like, to your point, I don't think that's like the weird part about any journeying anything, because it's like, okay, we don't know, like we don't like, our hope is that we'll get better at with the survivor's guilt thing or thriver's guilt, or putting our mask on first. By calling it out, we probably will, because that's been proven to us, so we gotta trust that. But like you definitely are further ahead than me, so I think, not way further, but you're further to where it's like I can learn from you to, as we've been talking about recently a lot, just like to say it out loud even to myself, and you can just learn to accept it because I think for you it really is almost not the opposite, because whatever, but it's the opposite. It's not the opposite of what I do, but it's the opposite of like what we're calling out. It's like somebody can say it to you, like say you thriving, and you like,
it makes me
I'm trying to get like you. That's you pull a black one. I do that too. But like you pull one of them, and I'm like, and you like, I won't, like when I say it, it sounds petty. I'm not gonna say I don't be meaning it, but like you would really mean it. Like if somebody was like, something about thriving, you would be like, I'm trying to get like you, and you would really mean it. Like you would really mean it, because like you don't want to accept that somebody trying to get like you, like in the
the acknowledgement, and
you don't want to accept that. Me, I want to
sure.
accept it, but like I feel like, oh my god, like I'm not even half where I'm supposed to be at, and like I can't make you that way. Yeah, you will be like, you will fully accept that you or like fully be like, no, I'm really trying to get like you.
Yeah.
So all that to say, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, but I know we have to go.
Yeah.
So
no, I think that's good, food for thought for whoever's watching it, for us when we watch it back. I'm excited to see us at a future state, hopefully, having figured out one or two of these things.
Yeah.
I don't think,
Usually
I think it's a
get
continuous
first,
journey,
so,
but it's good. And I think just leaving people with the idea that, like, it's okay. I think even if we break down the metaphor, just realizing it's okay to put your mask on in the first place, and how necessary it is. Forget everybody else, forget before that person or whatever. Just the idea of putting your mask on, period, is very, very important in all the aspects, financially, emotionally, spiritually, all of these things. You do have to take care of you, and not in a like generic like self-care way, because I think a lot of times that becomes like, well, what does that mean to care about myself if I've never done it before? But it's just like, at least at the minimum, sit with that thought and try to imagine what it looks like to like put your mask on. So
well, we're gonna go. And thank you for having this conversation with me and being open.
Good. Till next time.
Right. Thank y'all for watching, and I hope listening and all the things.